brief presentation from the interactive dialogues, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the co-chairs for their great work. And I will give the floor to the co-chair of Interactive Dialogue 4, His Excellency Ollanta Humala, President of the Republic of Peru.
Muy buenas tardes, señores.
Very good evening to you, co-presidents and co-facilitators, excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I have the honor to present to you on behalf of His Excellency, President of France, François Hollande, and on my own behalf, a summary of the deliberations that took place during Interactive Dialogue 4, Protecting Our Planet and Combating Climate Change. Climate change is one of our major challenges, and the negative impacts of climate change are challenging development and the possibilities of progress in all areas of our economies and societies. And so as to achieve the SDGs, we ensure that we have a high level of consistency between the responses to climate change and the eradication of poverty. We need integrated actions to ensure that we use our natural resources sustainably and manage our environment sustainably, our forests, land, mountains, oceans, and seas. And only in this way will we be able to respond to the growing need for food and energy. It's vital that women and children, vulnerable groups and indigenous people have equitable access to land, forests, and fisheries, fishing resources, etc. We must ensure also that we maintain and limit the increase of entry between 2.5 degrees centigrade, and this is the only way to limit this increase in temperature is through decarbonizing our economies, and this must be a priority in those countries that have the highest emissions of greenhouse gases. Transition towards renewable energy sources is particularly important in this regard, as well as improving efficiency in the way we use energy and our natural resources. We heard clearly the scale of vulnerability that developing countries are exposed to, such as Peru, but mainly the small island developing states and least developed states. The losses incurred because of the increase in the frequency and violence of natural disasters have high costs on our population and the economies of our countries. Adapting to climate change requires that we make greater international efforts in terms of our financial resources, transferring sustainable and clean technologies, and building capacity. It is vital that we have greater international cooperation geared primarily towards those countries that are less developed and small island developing states that need it. We must also strengthen the contributions of all stakeholders, and more specifically the private sector, at all levels, globally, regionally, and nationally, and as far as possible, establish a carbon price to guide investment policies and decisions towards low-carbon economies. Several countries have reported that they have ambitious national plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to mitigate the impact of climate change. The submission of these plans for all countries before the conference coming up in Paris will be a clear signal that we can have successful negotiations that will conclude in the 21st session of the Conference of Parties, COP21, slated for December in Paris. We have high expectations for the outcome of COP21. And we have been able to conclude that the general will is to have a global, ambitious, and legally binding outcome geared towards limiting the temperature increase to 2.5 or below 2, and this will be the litmus test of our collective commitment as nations, as societies, towards achieving the SDGs. It is my belief, my dear friends, that today humanity has before it a chance to build the biggest and most powerful partnership in the planet's history to tackle the problem of climate change and rising temperatures. Thank you very much.
I thank the co-chair of Interactive Dialogue 4 for his